Analysis of body fluids, ma'am.
Just wait, recording. Yes, start.
Ma'am, the biochemical analysis of body fluids, ma'am. It
Mm,
uses the chemical reaction
mm,
and to determine the chemical compounds and body fluids, ma'am.
okay.
And have three contents, ma'am.
Mm,
Cells, composition and malfunction, and role of clinical chemistry laboratory, ma'am.
mm,
And functions அப்புறம் cell composition, ma'am.
okay.
Its composition water, inorganic ions, and carbon containing organic molecules, ma'am.
Okay. Mm,
Water வந்து most abundant molecule, ma'am.
mm,
It is 70% or more total cell mass, ma'am.
okay.
Um, Next, role of organic is inorganic ions, ma'am.
Mm,
The inorganic ions, including sodium, potassium, phosphate, bicarbonate, ma'am,
mm,
constitute 1% or less of the cell mass, ma'am.
okay.
And next, carbon containing organic molecules. The organic molecules that are the unique constituents of cell, ma'am. Most of these organic compounds belonging one or four classes in a molecule, ma'am, like
Okay.
carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, ma'am.
Okay. Good. I think till that we have discussed in the last class, right? Composition, the functions, and what is cell, cell components we have discussed. So now let's move on to revision on that. Along with that, we'll move on to remaining parts of introduction to clinical chemistry. Okay. Thank you, Pa. Thank you, Sundar.
Okay, ma'am.
Good. So we have seen under introduction of clinical chemistry, what is the role of clinical chemistry? It is applicable in biochemical analysis of body fluids, which involves chemical reactions. And according to your syllabus, what are the contents we are going to discuss is about cell and its composition and malfunction, then role of clinical chemistry laboratory. In cell, we have seen the components of cell and cell organelles we have seen, and their functions we have discussed. Each cell organelle, functions of each cell organelle we have discussed. And then composition and malfunction we are about to discuss. In that, composition has been completed. Cell composition is, it is consist of water, inorganic ions, and organic molecules. What is the role of water? Characteristic of water we have discussed. Since it is a polar, it has different characteristic to interact with the molecules. Hydrophilic and hydrophobic nature a water molecule has. Based on that, it has interaction with other polar molecules. Okay. By forming hydrogen bonding. How it interacts? Through hydrogen bond formation. Intra and intermolecular hydrogen bond formation occurs with the molecule and water. Then inorganic ions of various ions we have seen found 1% or less than the cell mass it is occupying, that also we have seen. And the role of each ions, some ions you have already seen in the enzymatic reactions. Then organic molecules are major macromolecules which involves in metabolic processes, and that also we have discussed. And these molecules you are already familiar in while studying the metabolic pathways: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So till that we have, till this we have discussed in the last class. Now let's move on to the malfunctions of cell. If some cell organelles or fail to function, or defective function of some cell organelles will lead the syndromes or diseases. We'll see disorders. We'll see what are the disorders and what cell part defect it is caused by. Okay. First one is cell membrane. If the defect in cell membrane or dysfunction of cell membrane causes cystic fibrosis. What is cystic fibrosis. Let's see what is cystic fibrosis. It is nothing but CF. Just only I have given the characterization of what is cystic fibrosis. I have not get into deep into the disease conditions. Okay, so just I have given here what is cystic fibrosis with the image picturized representation. And here no individual disease I think will be asked in the exam as 5 mark or 10 mark. Till now it has not been asked and it is not given in the syllabus also. Just you have to know what all the malfunction takes place and what is cystic fibrosis. Only you need to know. Those whoever are having interest, then you can learn various symptoms, treatment methods, this all, like how you have learned other metabolic disorders like atherosclerosis, diabetes, like that also you can learn. Here I have just focused what is the malfunction, only I have characterized. Okay, no much information, it is focused since it is not given in the syllabus. Okay, only what are malfunctions and what is it, you have to know. And now we'll see what is cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disorder that affects mostly the lungs, where it affects mostly the lungs, but also the pancreas, liver, kidneys and intestine. What are the parts it affects? Lungs, pancreas, liver, kidneys and intestine. And long-term issues include difficulty breathing. Majorly it affects lungs, so it causes difficulty breathing. You can observe how cystic fibrosis occurs. You can see the fat deposition like in the lungs. So this is called cystic fibrosis. This is due to cell membrane, malfunction of cell membrane or dysfunction of cell membrane. Okay, so it causes difficulty breathing and coughing up mucus with the mucus as a result of frequent lung infections. It causes lung infections. So cystic fibrosis related to lung infections. Okay, it leads difficulty in breathing and it causes long-term issues. Okay, this is about cystic fibrosis, how it occurs due to dysfunction of cell membrane, plasma membrane, cell membrane dysfunction. What is the disease? Cystic fibrosis. Let's move on to the next part. That is nucleus, dysfunction of nucleus. What is the role of nucleus? It carries the genetic information where nucleic acids are synthesized. So when lack dysfunction in nucleus, it causes progeria, a malfunction or a disorder. It leads known as progeria. Okay, so we'll see what is progeria. Progeria is a specific type of progeroid syndrome called Hutchinson-Gilford syndrome. Hutchinson-Gilford syndrome. Progeria is otherwise known as Hutchinson-Gilford syndrome, and progeroid syndromes are a group of diseases with a premature aging. Okay, premature aging. You can observe the picture here. At age 3, how the infant looks, at age child looks, and at age 9 how he looks. This is what happens in progeria. This type of disease is called as Hutchinson-Gilford syndrome. Okay, and it causes a premature aging, and patients born with progeria typically live to an age of mid-teens and to early 20s. Okay, severe cardiovascular complications usually develop by puberty, resulting in death. Okay, since it is causing major problem is premature aging. Means premature aging means normal growth occurs. Abnormal growth occurs at the childhood itself. So that due to puberty means getting aged more. So that it causes severe cardiovascular complications also. Definitely it results in death. These are rare types only. But these are all the malfunctions you should know. Okay, so it is led by means it caused by nucleus dysfunction, progeria then related to aging, premature aging. It is mainly focused on premature aging, characterized by the term premature aging. Okay, Then patients born with progeria typically live to an age of mid-teens to early 20s only. Okay, before 20, due to severe cardiovascular complications, even death also occurs due to progeria disease. Now let's see the third malfunction of lysosome. When lysosome only, I think suicidal cells, right? Suicidal bags means they are lead for digesting purpose. Digestion mostly, since it contains acids, it will be causing digestion of molecules. So dysfunction of this lysosome leads mucopolysaccharidosis. It is mucopolysaccharide is the carbohydrate. Carbohydrate saccharidosis is disease condition. Okay. So we have seen cell membrane cystic fibrosis, nucleus causes progeria, and lysosome causes mucopolysaccharidosis. Now let's see what is mucopolysaccharidosis. Mucopolysaccharidosis refers to a group of inherited conditions, in which the body is unable to properly break down, mucopolysaccharides. They are long-chain sugar molecules that are found throughout the body. Mucopolysaccharides are long. Polysaccharides means definitely it will be containing many sugar molecules combined through alpha 1,4-glycosidic linkage, and that are found throughout the body. So accumulation or formation of mucopolysaccharides occurs throughout the body. You can see the accumulation of carbohydrate all over the body in this child. So it leaves facial features like flat nasal bridge, since the formation of mucopolysaccharides here, and thick lips. Then short torso and hearing loss also occurs. Then dysplasia or abnormal bone size. It causes dysplasia or abnormal bone size. Then developmental delays and mental retardation. Then enlarged organs like heart, liver, spleen. You can see the enlargement here. It is due to the enlargement of organs like heart, liver, and spleen. Then it leads heart diseases and respiratory issues. Okay, these are all rare malfunctions only. Okay. It will occur when severe dysfunction of cell organelles occur in the body. So lysosome causes mucopolysaccharidosis, and various types of mucopolysaccharidosis also there. Type 1 to type 7. Type 1 to 7. Here 1 is known as Hurler syndrome, 2 is known as Hunter syndrome, and type 3 is represented as Sanfilippo syndrome. Then Marquez syndrome for type 4. Type 5 is not mentioned, where type 6 is called as Maroturks-Lamy syndrome. Then 7 is Slice syndrome. So these are all 7 types of mucopolysaccharidosis are there, and which lists different conditions like indications of it causes different disorders or defects in various parts of the body. Okay. So this is about third syndrome caused by lysosome. So cell membrane causes cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis focuses on mainly lungs. So it causes difficulty in breathing. Where nucleus leads progeria. Progeria is indicating premature in aging. Then lysosome represents mucopolysaccharidosis. It causes or formation of polysaccharides or accumulation of mucopolysaccharides all over the body, and it leads different indications like here we have seen flat nasal bridge, thick lips, hearing loss, dysplasia, then mental retardation, enlargement of organs, heart disease. This all will be mediated by mucopolysaccharidosis. Okay, it settles all over the body due to improper breakdown or improper utilization of mucopolysaccharidosis. That means mucopolysaccharides. That means it is not going for catabolic process. Catabolism is reduced in this polysaccharides. So that only leads the infection or malfunction. Now let's see the next one, cytoskeleton, which supports the again the cell organelles. Cytoskeleton also gives support to the cell organelles inside the cell. So this dysfunction leads Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Let's see what is Duchenne muscular dystrophy. That is DMD. Can see in the picture itself what it leads. So DMD is a genetic disorder characterized by progressive muscle degeneration. Progressive muscle degeneration, so that you can observe in the picture how the how a boy leads due to this disease. In the prolonged time, if the particular person is having DMD, dystrophy, muscular dystrophy, then it leads the appearance of body like this. Okay, due to muscle degeneration. Degeneration means muscle is not properly generated. Muscle formation is not proper. Okay, so this is called muscular dystrophy. Duchenne muscular dystrophy. When it causes dysfunction, occurs dysfunction of cytoskeleton occurs in the cell, and it also causes weakness due to the alteration of the proteins. It causes due to the alteration of a protein, and it occurs typically in boys. It occurs mostly in boys comparing with the women, girls. So what is Duchenne muscular dystrophy? So name itself, it indicates muscular degeneration. So it focuses on muscular degeneration, and it leads weakness due to alteration of proteins. It occurs typically in boys. So it is due to what? Malfunction of cytoskeleton it occurs. Now let's see about mitochondria. You are listening, right? Let's see about mitochondrial dysfunction. It leads Leigh syndrome. What syndrome it is? Leigh syndrome. It is caused by malfunction of mitochondria. Now let's see what is Leigh syndrome. It is caused by mitochondrial dysfunction. So Leigh syndrome is a severe neurological disorder. It is severe neurological disorder. You can observe the brain image here and how this person looks with Leigh syndrome is focused in the image. So it is a severe neurological disorder that usually becomes apparent in the first year of life. Okay, this condition is characterized by progressive loss of mental and movement abilities. Mental and movement abilities will be lost. That is, the movement abilities are represented with psychomotor regression and typically results in death within 2 to 3 years, usually due to respiratory failure. So it causes respiratory failure. So it starts in the first, when the disorder started occurring in the first year, it will be started showing its symptom in the first year of progress of the syndrome itself. Then it causes increased mental and movement abilities, loss of, it will increase the loss of mental and movement abilities. They are known as psychomotor regression, and typically it causes in 2 to 3 years respiratory failure, and it may leads to death also. Okay, so this is known as Leigh syndrome. It affects it affects CNS, so it is considered as neurological disorder. Okay, is caused by mitochondrial dysfunction. Now let's see the last malfunction of cell organelle, that is endoplasmic reticulum malfunction is lead to Alzheimer's disease. What disease? Alzheimer's, where it arises from endoplasmic reticulum. Alzheimer's disease arised from endoplasmic reticulum. This is Alzheimer's disease. This is also neurological disorder. Other term or this Alzheimer's disease will lead dementia. Hope you would have heard what is dementia. This is also a progressive neurological disorder that causes the brain to shrink. It is called atrophy, and brain cells to die. It affects the brain to shrink and brain cells to die. And Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. What is dementia? A continuous decline in thinking, behavioral, and social skills that affects a person's ability to function independently. So it decline again the brain functions. So this is called Alzheimer's disease. It is due to endoplasmic reticulum dysfunction. So these are all the malfunctions of various cell organelles. So what are all the syndromes? We have seen cell membrane causes, dysfunction of cell membrane causes cystic fibrosis. So where cystic fibrosis affects lungs, and dysfunction of nucleus causes progeria. Progeria means affects or it is related to premature aging. Then lysosome represents dysfunction of lysosome causes mucopolysaccharidosis. It is due to improper utilization or improper breakdown or improper catabolism of mucopolysaccharides, and it leads development or settle down of mucopolysaccharides all over the body. That leads enlargement of organs. And then cytoskeleton dysfunction leads to Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This represents muscular degeneration, where mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum dysfunction leads to brain diseases, neurological disorders. One is Leigh syndrome, another one is Alzheimer's disease. This two affects brain since it is related to neurological disorder. Okay, so these are all about cell malfunctions. Clear, no? 6 types of cell malfunctions. So with this, composition and malfunction gets over. Now let's move on to the third part. That is the role of clinical chemistry laboratory. What is the role of laboratory, clinical chemistry laboratory? Laboratory means you will be testing clinical samples here. So what all information we will get from clinical chemistry laboratory, that we'll discuss here. Okay. So first we'll move on to the purpose of clinical chemistry laboratory. The function of clinical chemistry and laboratory medicine is to perform qualitative and quantitative analysis on body fluids. Okay, so the function of clinical chemistry laboratory role is to perform qualitative and quantitative analysis. What you have done with urine samples, the same will be performed with the different body fluids in laboratory, clinical chemistry laboratory. So what are the body fluids? Will check blood, urine, spinal fluid, feces, tissue, and other materials are tested at clinical chemistry laboratory. Now we'll see the key concepts of clinical chemistry laboratory. So clinical chemistry tests measure concentrations or activities of substances. It measures quantitatively concentration and qualitatively activities of substances like ions, molecules, complexes in body fluids. Okay, this is the key. There are 3 key concepts of clinical chemistry laboratory. First one is clinical chemistry tests measure concentrations or activities of substances called as ions, molecules, and complexes in body fluids. Okay, so it tests these substances. What it is, activities and concentrations. And next concept is these tests, clinical chemistry tests, may use different kinds of body fluids such as whole blood, plasma, serum, urine, and cerebrospinal fluid. These are all the samples are tested at clinical chemistry laboratory. Then third concept is the medical interpretation of a test result. The medical interpretation of a test result is based on comparison to a reference interval, comparison to a reference, that is standard. We will be comparing the result with the standard. For example, you have got some quantity of, you have done, what are the quantitative tests you have done on urine sample? Bendix test for urine sugar, Volkert's test for chlorides, JAVS for creatinine, likewise you have done, right? So you have got some quantity, and how you will confirm whether the quantity is normal with your body fluid means you need to compare with the standard readings. You need to compare with the standard readings. That is represented here as reference intervals. Okay, so the medical interpretation of a test result is based on comparison to a reference interval that typically reflects the range of values expected for healthy people or a medical decision level. Okay, it reflects the range of values expected for healthy people. That means normal range. We need to always compare with normal range. So reference interval represents normal range only. That means of healthy range, or a medical decision level, for example, 70 to 110 milligram per deciliter is normal glucose level, means up to some extent, like up to 120 they will consider, doctors. If it crosses 120 only, it may lead to diabetes, severe diabetes. Likewise, some medical decision level will be there, that also may be considered from normal range for the diagnosis and treatment of disease. This is the major concept found behind clinical chemistry laboratory. So these are the three concepts of clinical chemistry laboratory, where we'll be testing the samples of ions, molecules and complexes, and we analyze different body fluids of blood, such as blood, whole blood, plasma, serum, urine and cerebrospinal fluid, and will interpret the result with normal range or healthy level or medical decision level, that is known as MDL, medical decision level, for the diagnosis and treatment of disease. This is about key concepts. Now let's see what are the common analytes in the clinical chemistry laboratory are analyzed. Okay, what are the common analytes? We have seen here in the keynote, ions, molecules and complexes are analyzed. So what type of analytes commonly are analyzed in laboratory? Let's view that. In the first part, we will be analyzing as the clinical chemist, will be analyzing ions, salts and minerals. Ions, salts and minerals. For example, potassium, either in ionic form or salt form or mineral form. Ions, these ions are called as minerals also. So this may comprises all this, ions, salts and minerals. Potassium, sodium, calcium, then chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, carbon dioxide, lead, then lead and ion. So these are all the ions and salts and minerals are analyzed in the laboratory. Now let's see about small organic molecules that are analyzed and analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. Small organic molecules. This may be of three categories. One is metabolite, second one is therapeutic drugs, then drugs of abuse, DOA. These three category of small organic molecules may be analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. So what are the metabolites? Metabolites will be found in different body fluids, right? Glucose, cholesterol, urea, lactic acid, bilirubin, creatinine, triglycerides, ammonia, cystatin, C. So these are all metabolites will be analyzed. Then what are the therapeutic drugs? Drugs present in the body fluid also can be analyzed. So what are drugs? Vancomycin, theophylline. These are some examples only. Theophylline, digoxin, phenytoin, valproic acid, toxicology. In toxicology, this is another category. Okay, toxicology is another category where alcohol, salicylate, toxic substances are analyzed, where it includes alcohol, salicylate, then acetaminophen. These all can be analyzed. Then drugs of abuse. In that category, cocaine, barbiturates, amphetamines, opiates, cannabinoids. So these are all drugs of abuse. When these drugs present in the body fluids can be quantified qualitatively and quantitatively, can be analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. These are all considered as small organic molecules. Now let's see what are large macromolecules are analyzed. Large means definitely it will come under complex molecules, right? Macromolecules. That's what here we have seen. Ions, molecules. Molecules represent small organic molecules. Then complexes. Complexes represents large organic molecules. So what are the large macromolecules are analyzed in laboratory? Let's see. They are of 5 categories. Okay, 5 categories. In that, first one is transport proteins, then enzymes, specific proteins, lipoproteins, and diabetes marker. These are all will lie under large macromolecules that are analyzed in laboratory. What are transport proteins present in the body fluids? Albumin, transferrin, haptoglobin, ferritin, then total protein. Okay, these are all transport proteins are measured in laboratory. Then enzymes. What are all the enzymes we use to measure? Lipase, amylase, alanine aminotransferase, aspartate aminotransferase, ALT, AST. These 2 enzymes will be analyzed for determining SGOT and SGPT level. Okay, then that you will be performing in labs also. It is there in your syllabus itself. Then alkaline phosphatase, lactate dehydrogenase, creatine kinase. These 3 enzymes are isoenzymes you should have studied under enzyme chapter. Then specific proteins like immunoglobulins of IgA, IgG, IgM, then complement C3 and complement C4, then C-reactive protein, CRP. These are all specific proteins are analyzed. Then lipoproteins like high density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein, and lipoprotein of very low density lipoproteins. This A represents, I don't know what does A represents. Find out this. Okay, any one of you find out and tell me in the next class what is lipoprotein A. LDL, HDL, I know. This is also type of lipoprotein only. Okay, we have seen under lipid metabolism now lipoproteins are synthesized from acetyl-CoA, right? There's the precursor. So what are lipoproteins? High density lipoproteins, low density, and from cholesterol. We have seen different types of cholesterol. High density is good cholesterol, low density lipoprotein is bad cholesterol. You must know these 2 proteins, lipoproteins well. Okay, and along with triglycerides also to be added under lipoproteins, but it has come under smaller organic molecules, I think so. Triglycerides as a metabolite it has come. So that is triglycerides also a type of lipoprotein only. And then diabetes marker, that is HbA1c test. These are all different tests or molecules are analyzed. Then let's see what are the fluids typically used for clinical chemistry tests. So for analyzing these common analytes, what are the common analytes? Iron, salts and minerals, small organic molecules, then large macromolecules. So to analyze these molecules, substances from body fluids, what are all the types of fluids we are collecting from the body? One is blood. In that, whole blood, serum or plasma, then urine sample, then cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, or amniotic fluid, saliva, synovial fluid, fluid that is found in joint cavities, then pleural fluid from the sac surrounding the lungs, that is called pleural fluid, then pericardial fluid from the sac surrounding the heart, then peritoneal fluid, pericardial is in heart, peritoneal fluid is in ascitic fluid, it is also called as ascitic fluid, it is found in abdomen. So these are all various fluids that has been collected from the individual patients. Then it is tested for different analytes from the using different qualitative and quantitative clinical tests. Okay. So with this, I am completing today's class. Let me come with some more points for the clinical chemistry laboratory in the next class. So with few information, I will complete this class in the next hour. Okay, in the next class. With this, I'm completing, stopping the today's class. Okay, so we have seen among 3 parts, mostly all the points have been discussed, and some more points I would like to include. Because of lack of time now, I couldn't complete adding the information. Let me include in the next class and will describe the remaining things. Okay, so we have seen cell components and function, then composition and malfunction, and role of clinical chemistry laboratory. In clinical chemistry laboratory, we have seen now purpose of clinical chemistry laboratory, key concepts of clinical chemistry laboratory, purpose, key concepts. Then what are the common analytes are tested in clinical chemistry laboratory. Then we have seen so what are the different fluids analyzed in clinical chemistry laboratory. I hope all have understood till this. We'll discuss in the next class remaining points. Okay. Is there any doubt? Hope all have submitted assignment on first sessional questions, right? I'll be checking and will be evaluating soon. Okay. Those who have not submitted, kindly submit as soon as possible. Okay, we'll stop the class. No doubts, no? All of you